What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Sunday, March 29th, 2026, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 16:09 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East. So, I wanted to update you guys on the situation with Iran. So, major breaking news coming in from the Washington Post. The Pentagon is preparing for several weeks of ground operations in Iran, according to official American sources. In the past month, the Trump administration has discussed the possibility of taking over Karg Island, as well as raids on other coastal areas near the Strait of Hormuz to eliminate the military threat to commercial and military ships in the area, according to sources familiar with the details. Such moves could take between several weeks and up to several months. Okay, so more confirmation coming in from U.S. mainstream media and solid sources saying that the Trump administration is preparing for a long-term ground invasion of Iran. And Iran's parliament is now considering withdrawing from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and that's basically a treaty that says that you vow not to make nuclear weapons, and any country that signs it basically vows not to make nuclear weapons. So if Iran withdraws from this treaty, it means that they're going to start openly developing nuclear weapons. Very, very concerning. And right now we have some interesting flights over southern Europe. So just a few moments ago, 3 aerial refuelers took off from Romania. There's a major NATO base here at the Miguel Cogănescu airport. Major NATO base, one of the largest NATO bases outside of Ramstein. And suddenly 3 U.S. aerial refuelers being scrambled to the Mediterranean from there. So potentially U.S. bombers may be heading down to Iran to launch some big strikes soon. Also, we have a NATO AWACS plane taking off from Turkey heading towards Iran to monitor the airspace here. And the UK Daily Mail is reporting that the British government is drawing up plans for a massive evacuation of British citizens from the Middle East if Trump proceeds with a ground invasion. And an expeditionary force of 2,500 U.S. Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, along with 2,500 sailors, arrived in the Middle East aboard the USS Tripoli on Friday, U.S. officials told the New York Times. So we already have 5,000 Marines, and we also have the 82nd Airborne coming in. The 10th Mountain Division is reportedly being deployed. And now we're also hearing an additional 10,000 troops will be deployed. So this is going to be a big ground invasion. And I think it could start as soon as this week, or if not, after Easter. And the U.S. Marine Corps sent a letter to their reservists earlier this week to tell them to check their readiness for a possible large-scale deployment linked to Iran. And Iranian media sources say strikes occurred on electrical infrastructure in Tehran and northern Iran this morning, with widespread power outages being reported across Tehran and the northern Iran area. And Reuters is reporting that Iran is planning to launch an unusually large-scale wave of attacks within the next 24 hours in an attempt to influence the oil market and lead to a massive price increase to approximately $130 a barrel. So Iran, sensing that we're about to launch this ground invasion, may suddenly escalate the amount of attacks on oil infrastructure in the Middle East to cause oil prices to skyrocket. And remember, guys, before the war started, the Trump administration was already working out what to do if oil goes up to $200 a barrel, which is double what it is now. That would mean $7 a gallon for gas in the United States and $9 a gallon for diesel. And it's not just the fuel, it's everything gets more expensive because the price of shipping will go up because of that. So food will get more expensive, everything. And yesterday, a drone hit the U.S. consulate in Erbil after intense Iranian strikes. So an Iranian drone hit the U.S. consulate in Erbil, Iraq. That's in northern Iraq. And B-2 stealth bombers carried out strikes on Iran yesterday, and they were heard by amateur radio observers while they were communicating with air traffic controllers in Spain as they were leaving Europe and heading back to the U.S. after the strike. So 4 B-2 bombers carried out these strikes. And the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, says Russian satellites are taking pictures of U.S. military facilities in the Middle East for Iran on nearly a daily basis. Wow. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is Matt Hat Jerky. Guys, if you're a beef jerky lover like myself, you got to try Matt Hat Jerky. This is the best beef jerky I've ever had. I personally met the owner of this company at SHOT Show, and he's actually local to Pennsylvania. This company has an interesting story behind it. He founded this company when he was 11 years old. Yeah, that's right, 11 years old. He's now 19, and he makes gourmet beef jerky, the best jerky I've ever had. He's got over a dozen different flavors, and it's all sourced with U.S. beef, so no foreign beef, no nitrates, and no MSG. So it's all natural American beef jerky. And if you use my promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And you got to go to matthatjerky.com. And I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. That's matthatjerky.com. One word, matthatjerky.com. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off your entire order. And the link and the promo code are in the description down below. And Russia repeatedly captured satellite images of the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia leading up to the Iranian attack a few days ago that damaged multiple American aircraft and wounded over a dozen American troops, according to a summary by the Ukrainian intelligence shared with NBC News. We're hearing now 14 troops were injured and an E-3 AWACS plane was totally destroyed. And here's an actual picture of one of these AWACS planes that was completely annihilated, and you can see that they actually targeted the radome, which is the radar dish that this plane has on the top of it. Okay, so this was a purposeful strike to eliminate one of these planes. These are very expensive planes. They're highly precise. They can carry out very precise reconnaissance from long distances. So this is a very serious loss for the U.S. Even though we have dozens of these, still very expensive and hard to replace one of these. And we're hearing now that over 24 U.S. soldiers were injured in Iranian attacks over the past week. And the picture I just showed you shows the total loss of an E-3 Sentry AWACS belonging to the U.S. Air Force's 552nd Air Control Wing based out of Tinker Air Force Base. And it had a registration of 81-0005. So very, very concerning. The strike appears to have purposely targeted the most important part of the E-3, that being the rear of the aircraft, which holds its rotating radome containing several sensitive instruments, including antennas for the E-3's AN APY-2 surveillance radar system. And the IRGC has stated that it intends to target 2 Israeli or U.S. universities in the region in retaliation for the attack on the Iran University of Science and Technology in Tehran by the U.S. and Israel earlier this week. So very concerning there. And the Houthis say that they intend to close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So that's the strait that goes to the Suez Canal, another critical strait. In addition to the Strait of Hormuz, you have that other strait there by Yemen that goes to the Suez Canal, another major shipping area. If you remember, during the Biden administration, the Houthis were causing major problems by attacking ships as they were trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And so now the European Union is urging European Union ships to avoid traveling in this area. So very concerning. And Saudi Arabia's crucial east-west pipeline that circumvents the Strait of Hormuz is pumping oil at a full capacity of 7 million barrels a day, according to Bloomberg. So this was an emergency pipeline. It was a pipeline that was made for emergency purposes years ago because they knew something like this was eventually going to happen. And so this pipeline basically goes from east to west, or from east to west across the central part of Iran through Saudi Arabia, just right in the middle, in the center of the country, through the desert, and then it leads out to the Red Sea. So this pipeline is at full capacity now, okay? And the prices are still going up. And Britain is preparing to deploy the RFA Lime Bay, an amphibious landing vessel, to the Strait of Hormuz, retrofitted with a fleet of autonomous mine hunting drones, according to the UK Times. So they're going to be deploying these mine hunting drones to clear out areas of the Strait of Hormuz. And Reuters says that the Persian Gulf countries have told the U.S. that ending the war with Iran is not enough, and that they demand Iran's military capabilities be degraded. So it's not just Israel that considers Iran a threat, but it's also the moderate, Western-friendly Muslim countries around the Persian Gulf that don't want to deal with this aggressive, radical leadership in Iran that has missiles and nukes, okay? And Israel has begun rationing its use of high-end missile interceptors, hoping to preserve stocks of its most capable defensive weapons in the face of daily Iranian barrages that haven't let up through 4 weeks of war, according to the Wall Street Journal. So they're running low on their high-end interceptors. And there were airstrikes yesterday in the Sohanik district of northeast Tehran. And French anti-terror police foiled a bomb plot outside of a Bank of America in Paris. And witnesses reported a fresh wave of explosions across Tehran and nearby areas on Sunday morning, including near the Masoudieh military base, Daghagieh Township, Haravi, Taransar, and Eshtahard in the Alborz province. And there was a chemical plant in southern Israel in the town of Ramat Havav that was hit by the Iranian ballistic missiles. And an investigation is now ongoing to assess a possible leak of hazardous material. Israeli civil defense has set up a perimeter around the factory, evacuating everyone in the surrounding area due to the risk of possible leaks of hazardous chemicals. And what you're looking at here is some footage from this chemical plant that was hit by Iran. You can see this thick black smoke here coming from this facility. Very concerning. Yesterday, there were a massive amount of explosions across large cities in Iran, including Tehran, Isfahan, Karamabad, and Tabriz. Notably, Isfahan, Karamabad, and Tabriz have nuclear and or ballistic missile facilities. And the Omani Foreign Ministry said yesterday, "We condemn the ongoing war and all military targeting against all the countries in the region. We condemn the treacherous and cowardly attacks on our lands." Okay, so Oman is calling out Iran because Iran is retaliating and randomly hitting all these surrounding countries that have nothing to do with this war. Okay, and they're calling them cowardly. And yesterday, some person drove a car through a crowd in Derbyshire, UK, at the Derby city center, and at least 20 people were run over by this car, probably an Islamic terrorist. And China has stationed 200 plus converted J-6 attack drones at 6 air bases near the Taiwan Strait, 5 in the Fujian province and 1 in the Guangdong province, designed to flood air defenses in a first wave assault, flying like cruise missiles, according to Mitchell Institute satellite imagery. Okay, so China preparing for an attack on Taiwan slowly. Okay, they're stationing all of these attack drones. And North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a ground test of a high-thrust solid fuel missile engine using a composite carbon fiber material, saying that the test was a part of the North's 5-year plan to upgrade its strategic strike capabilities. So very concerning. They're now testing solid fuel ballistic missiles with carbon fiber, which is a huge upgrade from the liquid-fueled missiles that they've been using. Liquid-fueled missiles are old technology from like the 50s, 60s, and early part of the 70s. The downside to liquid-fueled missiles is that you have to fuel up the missile for about 2 hours before you can launch them. So it's a slow process. You can't have an immediate retaliatory strike because you have to fuel up the missiles first. So they're mainly only good for offensive or first strike uses. They're not good for retaliatory strikes. And if your enemy knows where they're located, they can strike your liquid-fueled missiles before you have a chance to launch them. So your radars will detect the missiles coming in, but it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to launch them out of your launch facility, and your launch facility is going to get hit before you can fuel them up. So that's a big downside. But now they're going into the 21st century and developing solid fueled missiles. Very, very concerning. It will give North Korea a retaliatory capability. So if we ever wanted to launch a first strike on their facilities, they would be able to immediately launch right away and hit our bases and different areas, cities, and things like that. Okay. And finally, we continue to see a massive airlift operation from Ramstein to Israel. Here you can see half a dozen C-17s going down to Israel last night. They've been doing this every night for the last few nights, so clearly preparations for a ground invasion. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with more breaking news. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.